Good morning once again, everybody, and welcome to our June 4th, 2025 quarterly meeting for the Alliance of Lions Charitable Organizations. We are delighted to have you all with us. My name is Daniel Prohaska. I'm District Governor-elect for District 32C in South Carolina and also President and CEO of Lions Vision Services, our state Lions charity in South Carolina. We are excited for our program today for PID Mel to share with us some information on human resources, which is always a perennial topic of interest and importance for our work in the nonprofit world. We also have a couple of new business items to go through before we get to the formal program. So with that, I'll go ahead and kick us off and ask for us to go through our introductions and would invite you to just share your name, your title, and your organization name. And if you would like anything else about what's going on in your particular work right now. So I will ask, how about Lydia Hauser to start us off?
I'm Lydia Hauser, and I'm the Executive Director for the Ohio Lions Eye Research Foundation, and we're just finishing up our year of research projects for 24-25 and some good things on the horizon. We've got one of our drugs out in testing for macular degeneration, so it's exciting for us to be able to help fund something that may help that particular area of vision care.
That's exciting, Lydia. Please keep us posted on that. We always get questions about MD and just what treatment and management options are available. So that sounds really exciting.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Who would like to go next? How about PID Mel?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mel Bray. I'm the past international director from New Jersey. I represent a bunch of organizations, but I put up here our Ultravision, our eye bank in Philadelphia. I'm the immediate past chairperson of that particular organization and been on the board since 2002. And we're working on a lot of different projects, and we do a lot of transportation of eye tissue over to Kenya and other places in Africa, giving people their chance to having a corneal transplant. And we were lucky enough to be involved in the first ones in Burundi, where they were not having any kind of a corneal transplant from 1905 until 4 years ago. So we were very happy to be able to expand that operation to get out there internationally, and we're working with a large group now in India as well.
Fantastic. And I know your grant writer, Mary Ann, is busy with some grant deadlines today. So we miss her involvement in today's meeting, but congratulations for all of the work that y'all are doing programmatically and philanthropically.
Thank you.
Beth, would you like to go next?
Sure. Good afternoon. Can you all hear me? Okay. I'm Beth Earhart. I'm the Executive Director of the Georgia Lions Lighthouse Foundation. I've been here since September of 2022, so coming up on 3 years. We have been very successful this last year with getting LCIF grants. We got one to update our clinic that we have here in Chamblee with equipment that we no longer have to send patients a mile down the road to have pictures of their retina. So we're very happy to have that. Some of the doctors who have come have said this equipment's better than what I have in my office. So that was exciting. And we also got a second grant for a second lane of teleoptometry equipment so that we can cover more areas in rural Georgia. Here, there are 52 counties that do not have any vision providers. And one more exciting thing is that we are the third state in the U.S. to have the Sight for Kids program, and that's been going very well with the partnership with LCIF and Johnson & Johnson. Our biggest issue is always getting doctors, so we're hoping we can work on that issue and get that resolved soon.
Fantastic. That's really exciting news. Congratulations.
Thank you.
ID Chris, how are things in Louisiana?
Oh, they're saying It's warm. It's hot. Um, Louisiana Lions Eye Foundation, 18 years now. Having fun. Looking to retire. Anybody want my job? Come on down. That's the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge I have right now is to find my mini me, my replacement, somebody who's willing to take my place. But I've got 2.5 years and I'm out of here. But the Sight for Kids program's going fine. Our programs are going well. Beth, you and I could probably talk about that because I had a meeting with Eric yesterday about the big challenge of finding the docs, and that's the big challenge. During
Yeah,
the week, during the weekend, it's not a problem.
right.
But
We spoke yesterday too.
yep. So
Yeah.
we'll talk, we can talk later. But thanks you guys for being here. Appreciate seeing all of you.
Thank you, ID Chris. Uh, Wesley, how are things in New Mexico? Would you like to go
Oh,
next?
we're getting rain. We're finally getting some rain, but this year I was elected as the president of the Eye Bank, and I'm the past president of the Eye Foundation, and I'm also a member on our Kids Site program. And we had Blue Cross Blue Shield donate us a van, and we're fixing it up to go to the schools in our communities, well, to our towns. And right now it's in Taos, New Mexico, and we're getting it filled with equipment so we can have optometrists taking the kids that can't go to the eye doctors. They can go. We're going to set that van up, and they can take and get their eyes and their glasses there at in the van. And I'm envious of all you other guys because, man, you guys do all kinds of stuff. But we're trying. And we were one of the first states to do Kids Site.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Sounds like things are going well. Lindy, would you like to go next?
Sure, yes. Good afternoon. Sorry, I was a couple minutes behind. Daniel may have mentioned, but we hopped right off one other Zoom and I needed a refresh moment. But Lindy Lampkin with Kentucky Lions Eye Foundation. I've been the executive director for a little over 6 years there. We do similar services to many of you. We also recently opened our low vision clinic in November, and that's been strongly successful so far. And we're expanding starting in August to serve more patients there. And happy to be part of the group and to learn and to share any thing that I've learned along the way. So thank you all very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Lindy. Ron, take us up to Illinois.
Fruit, Lionsville, Illinois Foundation Executive Director. We're right now, we're living Camp Lions, trying to get the last of the counselors scheduled and campers scheduled so that we got our 5 weeks of camp through June, July, and August. So that's our focus right now. Looks like we're going to probably be up about another 10 or 15 campers this year from last year, which is decent, but still a long ways from getting back to our pre-COVID numbers. Biggest issue we're finding is communication with the teachers that teach both deaf and hearing, because our camps cover both. We've got specific weeks that have both, specific weeks that have just deafs, specific week that has just vision. So we're constantly trying to work with the schools and get more information to the teachers so they can get the information out to the parents and the kids.
That's great. I can imagine the nature of those camps has changed a lot in the last 5 years. So kudos to y'all for sticking with it and keeping that going. That's fantastic. Yvette, would you like to go next?
Good morning, or good afternoon, I guess it is, one of those. I'm Yvette Hartwig. I'm the executive director of the Wisconsin Lions Foundation, and we actually run 5 major projects for our Lions in the state of Wisconsin. And our biggest one, obviously, is Wisconsin Lions Camp, which started this last Monday. We have 10 weeks where we provide 1 week camp sessions free of charge to kids who are blind or visually impaired, deaf or hard of hearing, have epilepsy, diabetes, or intellectual disabilities with autism. And then we have 1 week of adults who are blind or visually impaired who are here now, and 1 week of adults who are deaf or hard of hearing. That has started, like I said, on Monday and is going into full swing. So that pretty much is, once that gets started, it kind of runs itself. We have a great staff. And the other project is pretty big, is our eyeglass recycling center. We have a center that's been here since 1995. It has grown. We have a new project director that is pushing on getting eyeglass missions. We had a bill passed, and now we can give used eyeglasses to residents of the state of Wisconsin under or over the age of 14. So we've started missions through the state doing that as well. And then we're building that up too. I have been executive director for 20 years, and shortly you're going to meet my successor, Brad. I am retiring on December 31st of this year, and Brad will be taking over. And my board was generous enough that Brad is actually shadowing me for 7 months. So we welcome Brad, and I wanted him to be able to be on here today. He just started, and we are going to be at the USA Canada Forum for the meetings there as well.
Awesome, man. Sounds like y'all need to lead a future program on managing successful leadership transitions. That's exciting. That's a major testimony that your board is willing to invest the time and the resources, the financial resources, to have that overlap with y'all. Brad, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Brad Behrens. I've been Lion for 26 years, past district governor. I've been on the board for the Wisconsin Lions Foundation for 7, president, and been involved with our program. So it was an easy transition to come over here from a good mentor and learn from Yvette. And it's been exciting for the 3 days that I've been here. So excited to hear from all of you and hope to meet everybody when we're in Atlantic City.
Awesome. Thank you. I might be reaching out to y'all in Wisconsin about your eyeglass recycle program and some of that advocacy work that it sounds like y'all were involved in. But we can circle back to that separately for another conversation. I'm very interested in that. Thank you all for those introductions, and it's great to hear the incredible work that y'all are doing all over the country. We want to move through a couple of new business items today before we get to our program. The first, we mentioned this at our March meeting. We want to talk with you about the Atlantic City Forum and the workshop that we're planning there. This is draft form. We want to sit down with our friends in New Jersey to talk through this in more detail, but just to put something on the map, to put some kind of structure out there. We want to give you kind of a broad overview of what we are hoping to achieve so that you all can start making your travel plans and things like that. But we hope to be able to provide a networking social. It could be, I should really put 4/5 o'clock here. It could be either of those times, but a networking social on Tuesday for those that are able to come in. I figured Tuesday is probably going to be travel day for most of us. So if you can get in before dinner, we'd love to have some time to interact with one another. Lindy did a great job of facilitating this when we were in Louisville last year and thought that we could offer that again in Atlantic City. Wednesday, we'll have a similar structure of facilitated by ID Chris with opening remarks and introductions based on your feedback from what you have asked to learn about through these programs. We've got a proposed 2-part fundraising program in the morning, one that's focused specifically on grant writing, where we'd like to have someone from LCIF and a local foundation and a professional grant writer involved in a panel conversation with us to talk with us about grant writing. But then also part 2 of that, local foundation, this might be a community foundation or some other local funding partner in the Atlantic City area on how we can extend philanthropy beyond Lions. I think all of us are providing services and operating at a level where we rely on grants from community foundations or corporate foundations, maybe even individuals that are outside the Lions community. So how can we extend our brand awareness? How can we extend our service impact beyond just Lions clubs and Lions Club members. Um, to minimize costs for this, we will do kind of a lunch on our own kind of thing, where we obviously will encourage everyone to pair up or go in groups to local restaurants and things, but to do lunch on your own, come back for a professional development session on how to manage a professional development plan that keeps you growing as a nonprofit executive, and then a compliance session at the end. Get someone from LCI Legal if we can to join us for that. But more broadly, just what legal compliance challenges, issues, and best practices we need to be maintaining in our organizations throughout the year. So that carries us from about 9 a.m. until planned end time of about 4:15. Again, we want to work with our New Jersey partners on some of the logistics of this, but in kind of broad-based terms, what do y'all think of this proposed agenda? Don't everyone jump at once.
Hey guys, Daniel, Lindy, and I actually talked about all of this at 10 o'clock. So what we're looking to know is this something that you think is interesting to you? Do you have any comments or any other suggestions? We want to make sure there's a reason for your board members to send you there and that you come away with something. Any thoughts?
Being a new organization, I think it's what you have proposed at this point going forward looks pretty good for New Jersey to have this.
I agree. I think it's great, especially the grant writing piece of it. Uh, you know, and the LCI legal compliance piece, because that's been a big push in the last year, uh, that has changed considerably to what it was. And so, a lot of people still aren't compliant. I can tell you we are, but I know a lot of people aren't. So that would be great to have LCI Legal come in and have a discussion with us.
I think from my perspective, since this is Yvette, my perspective in leading and handing the reins over to Brad, I think all of these four sections are just great to have him involved in, because I remember when I first started, I hate that cliche, but I'm going to use it anyways. Um, I started and I was really, really green. I did not know a lot about anything. So I think this is great. And I hope Brad takes a lot out of this, and yeah, I think it's a good job with whoever is planning this.
Yvette, thank you for that comment. Actually, that's what this whole association's about. Because when I started 18 years ago, I was green as well. The only thing I knew is how to sell Mardi Gras beads, right? I didn't know anything about grant writing. I didn't know anything about the vision industry. I didn't know anything about compliance or any of that stuff. And through the years of working with other executive directors, it's helped me out tremendously. So um, I think that this is a good format. And as you can see in there, Daniel's put in some networking time. So those networking breaks are 30 minutes, and that gives us an opportunity. If something's said during the meeting and we have to break away and talk about it, then maybe I'll grab, Beth and say, "Hey, I heard you say this." So I like I like the format of this.
I think it looks good too.
Awesome. Well, if this is good in concept at least, then we will move forward with this basic skeleton. And again, I think ID Chris and Lindy and I will set up a time soon to connect with PID Mel and Marianne and start having more specific conversations with the New Jersey team about how we can pull all this off. But other than those logistics, we look forward to seeing y'all hopefully on Tuesday, September the 16th, and certainly at the latest on Wednesday, September the 17th in Atlantic City for the forum this year. So that'll be good. I'm excited to bring that together. Real quick, we've got the International Convention coming up as well, and I know not all of us will be there, but I was curious, is anyone on this call going to be at the International Convention?
I am.
Okay,
I might make it.
awesome. I see it. Yeah, I see a couple. Beth, that's awesome to see you and Lydia as well. So I'm planning on being there. Well, I kind of have to be there. I'm district governor elect, so
I was
I
going to
gotta show
say,
up.
so our daughter is district governor-elect, so that will
Oh,
be,
That's
I
good.
will have to hook the two of you up.
yes, we'll be on
So you
stage
can-
together at some point, I bet. So awesome.
Yes.
Well, Lydia, I have to be there as well.
I, for some reason, I knew that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll put out the call then. If y'all would like to meet up for lunch or for dinner or something while we're there, or even just coffee, we can put out an email thread with all of us that are going and try to sync up if that would be good. Just not something formal, but just some networking time, some connection while we're there in Orlando. Sorry, it won't be in Mexico City, but oh well. Have to try that another time. But yeah, let's try to hook up then if it works and look at your schedules if you can and be thinking about a time that you might be able to grab a meal together and we'll see what we can pull off.
Sounds great.
And not to divert, but Lydia, I'd love to meet your daughter because I'm going to be coming to Ohio this coming year. So as a guest speaker, I'm gonna
I
be coming to see Daniel too. So
I do know that. I got you on the schedule already about coming to Ohio.
yeah, well, love.
Awesome.
That's what this is all about, meeting and getting to know each other. So that's wonderful. Let's do it.
Great.
PID Mel, did you have something you wanted to weigh in on that?
No, I was just saying, yes, I'm going
Oh,
to
perfect.
be there, and somebody put a hand up because I don't know how to do that. It couldn't find it. So
No
just
worries.
use the physicals.
Sounds good.
Now I
Awesome.
don't know how to take it down either.
That's the thing about technology. Um, Real quick, this touches on Lydia, what you mentioned from the compliance section, and frankly, that's one of the reasons we wanted compliance to be a topic at our workshop at the forum. If you are a district governor or district governor elect, you probably got an email recently requesting the annual Lions Foundation compliance report to be submitted with your officers and service impact and things like that. So if you did not get that, please let us know and we can send the link to that report around. But we do want to encourage everyone to fill that out for LCI. And we look forward to being able to talk with them more in Atlantic City, hopefully about some of the changes that are in the compliance structure with that. Because again, this is a more recent development that's happened, and we encourage y'all to help us with that reporting so that LCI Legal stays happy with us. So just let me know. You can reach out. You can email me directly if you did not get the link to that report, and we'll be happy to pass that around. And then finally, we've got a couple of minutes here before our 12:35 program starts. So if you have any announcements from your organization, or if you have a challenge right now that you think the Alliance of Lions Charitable Organizations can help with, I'll just open it up, open the floor for conversation for the next 9 or 10 minutes or so.
I've got something. So I would suggest go ahead and send out that link to everybody just because it's good to have. And then the other thing was on the Lions Foundation master list by region.
Mhm.
Um, we had some holes. So do you want some of us, like I can get all the Ohio connections. I saw that it looked like Chris was supposed to
Yeah, those,
be.
who it was assigned to, so to speak, that was something that Chris and Lindy and I did ahead of the Louisville Forum just to try to get a critical mass of people together. But anything that you can do to help us with that, yes. So Lydia, if you've got some of the information for those organizations, please send them to us. We would love to update that list and fill those
Okay.
gaps in. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought that would be good for at least everybody to take a look at it and make sure that the different areas are current and up to date.
Yeah, Lydia, thanks for those two comments on that. one, as far as this link that Daniel's talking about, if you did not receive it as the executive director, which you probably did not, all right, you may have received it as Daniel did as a incoming governor. So what I would recommend is that you take this link and talk to all your incoming governors, because I believe it's going to the first vice district or the DGEs and not to your foundation. This is about reporting service on the Lions level, not on the foundation level. The other thing is, Lydia, I could sure use some help contacting some other people. So yeah, you could take that list, look at it, and then if there's any other states around you, I know we got Wisconsin here, but I know we don't have some of the other bigger states up there in the north that are not represented in this association. So maybe you guys know who to contact. So we could definitely use some help with that.
Okay, I will definitely complete Ohio for you. And, if there's something specific, some state, if you just say, hey, I don't know anybody in Indiana, I can, I can definitely reach for you, or Michigan or something.
Yeah,
So,
we just got a volunteer. Somebody just threw their hand up there, Daniel.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, Lydia, I think I just got your name from Steve Shear or Ron, right? So
right.
yeah, so and you were the only one that I reached out to thinking that you had the representation there. But yes, please help us out with that.
Okay, will do.
I will say that today's topic is just perfect for me because at this point in time, we're experiencing a lot of staff who are um, becoming very complacent in their work, and just like, you're not paying us enough to uh, to to do my job in full, which is hard for me to understand, but that seems to be one of the issues I have with staff right now. They're a younger group. I heard that there's some sort of TikTok video out there right now that's encouraging people to act your wage.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Beth, I can tell you, generationally, I have observed that same trend in the workforce, and yeah, I'm very interested to hear Mel's
Yeah.
advice and comments to us about that, because we don't have anybody at that age in our organization currently. Ironically, I'm actually the youngest employee in our organization, and I'm in the millennial generation. But it's something that is pretty pervasive in that Gen Z
Mm,
demographic, especially. So doesn't seem to be going away. So we've got to figure out how to work with it and how to
yes.
adapt and be successful.
Definitely agree. And I think I'm also eager to hear the content. And I think that human resources covers such a broad net of, how it is applicable in organizations of any kind, not just Lions. And I think so there's probably takeaways that even 6 months from now, we might look back on this conversation and even if they're not immediately applicable. But I know for all of us, I'm sure, I presented at my children's school career day last Thursday and put an image up there about wearing many hats when I was trying to explain what I do. I wasn't obviously the sheriff who, people kind of understand, or the dentist. I was like the nonprofit executive manager or whatever they titled it for me. And I don't think the fourth graders really fully understood that, but I think that is probably my biggest challenge that obviously we've all learned to kind of manage, as best we can in different seasons for our organization or seasons of life. But sometimes just the I won't say full burnout, but certain days where it's just like, we're a staff of just 3 full time doing, tons of services, and we all love it, but it can be hard sometimes to have that good balance. And so I think for me, groups like this, sometimes just knowing you're not alone, that's kind of a theme of anything in life, right? Like I lost my mom to colon cancer. When I met other people who lost their mom to colon cancer at a young age, we just kind of got it, right? So I think just knowing, like, it's encouraging, but also unfortunate to hear Beth, like, these things happen at other places, but it helps you realize that you're not alone. I think that's one of the big takeaways from a group like this. Obviously, we're all at different parts of the country, different parts of our career, but we encounter certain and similar challenges. And sometimes just even if there's not a solution, likely a lot of times there is a solution. But sometimes to me, just the connection is so powerful to just realize like we're doing great things and there can be kind of those tough days. And when you're wearing 74 hats in one day, like it's awesome that you're doing that, but sometimes it's a little overwhelming. So thankfully, I have various outlets and things I enjoy, and hopefully all of you guys do too, to try to kind of keep it balanced. But I don't know, just kind of a appreciation comment, I guess, of like you guys are each doing the hard work and the great work and what we're all doing, and sometimes it can be overwhelming, but just glad to be part of a group where it feels like there's understanding and commonality.
Absolutely. It's good to feel seen and heard. Maybe in Atlantic City we can have an activity. Who can show the most hats they wear? You know, bring a hat for every hat you wear. We'll see who has the tallest stack. Oh. Some of us might need an extra carry-on bag for that.
Right? Yeah. I ran out of room on my slide. I was listing them all, and these fourth graders had no clue what a lot of it meant. But I was like, man, when you start to talk about all the things you do, you realize it sometimes can feel like, to your point, Daniel, unseen and, not usually intentional by people to not get it. But yeah.
Yeah.
I know we got to get to Mel, but on that note, I'm in the middle of writing my job description so we can hire somebody. This is a challenge. So I agree with y'all.
Yeah. I remember hearing a nonprofit consultant one time reviewing CEO or executive director job descriptions for nonprofit organizations, and she just cut to the chase and said, with all of the things that they're asking for, you might as well put Messiah Wanted as your job description. That seems to be what most people are looking for. And yeah, I mean, that's a pretty fine point to put on it. But that's kind of what it feels like, we're trying to live up to in these roles a lot of times. Sorry, Brad. Welcome to the club. I'll share quickly one project that we are undertaking. If you go to our career page on our website, we've got an RFP out right now for an evaluation strategist and data statistician for our Vision 2030 program. We are trying to quantify the effect of investing in eye care services in South Carolina. So we're looking at how does investment in preventative eye care services, whether that's eyeglasses or eye surgeries or regular exams and screenings or vision rehabilitation on the side of people that have permanent blindness or low vision, how does investment in those eye care services reduce healthcare costs? How can we actually quantify that, hospital visits decrease when you have access to eye care? What is the return on investment for investment in those eye care services? So it's a very kind of complex level where we're looking at what we're measuring and how we're measuring it, but then also how do we report out more regularly on that. It's a joint project between our organization and two other vision groups in our state. And we've done a fair amount of research trying to figure out other samples or examples that we could turn to. And for at least what we're trying to get at, it doesn't seem like there's really a lot of information out there on this. So if we've missed something, please direct us to any resources that might be there, and we would welcome your input on that.
So have you reached out to prevent blindness?
So we not directly, no.
Uh, So I sit on the Prevent Blindness of Ohio, the board, uh, and they have done some key studies. So I'm thinking that maybe if you might reach out to the international group, that they
Mhm.
may have some numbers, because I know in Ohio there's some numbers. I do some classes every once in a while for them, and they'll give me different things. So it might be worthwhile, at least that would give you a starting point, you know, rather than have to recreate it all. So
Right.
just a suggestion.
No, thank you, Lydia. That's great. We've talked with their advocacy team before. Sarah, I'm blanking on her last name right now. But yeah, we could circle back and just try to connect with the national group and see what other resources are out there. We've got a lot of footnotes and citations for similar studies for what we're looking at in our RFP, which is the full RFP is on our website on our career page. So if they've got suggestions beyond that that we should look at or include, we would love to see that. We don't want to reinvent the wheel if we don't have to.
Right. You just might be able to take some of it and utilize it versus having to start from zero.
Yeah. Thanks. All right. Well, we are at 12:36, and it seems like we've kind of reached a natural conclusion point on the current challenges. So, without any further ado, I will introduce past International Director Mel Bray, who will be leading our presentation today on human resources. PID Mel, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. You have the floor.
I hope I can come up with all the challenges you just gave me in the last 5 minutes, because that wasn't part of what we started writing back in January. Anyway, the topic is human resources. We have about 45 minutes or so to talk about it. The issue is that you're going to have to need another 2 or 3 or 4 hours to really delve into all the different things that you really want to know about human resources. I do not have a program to keep you that long, so you're lucky today. So I did write up a large, it's 10 pages long because I had to blow up the print, but it's probably about 3.5 to 4 pages worth of stuff. And I did reach out to our iBanks, has two people who are non-Lions who are part of our group and part of our board. And they happen to work very continuously for the last 20 years in HR. So I ran by some of them, some of the questions that I had, and they were able to give me back the information that I needed to be able to have for you. So we'll start with New Jersey is a crazy place. It's a small state. But we have two different kinds of employees. You can either have employees that are right to work, or you can have employees who have to be qualified to be into a union. So you have a lot of different things. And one of the parts of this program actually talks about the unionization. Um, I'm going to go into that a little bit because whether you have enough employees to think that you would be unionized, you actually, if you have more than two people in your group, could be unionized. And that kind of would screw things up. So there's a couple of quick things that I can talk about in that area that will help you to have the knowledge. So if someone comes in and says that they're from the union and they're the rep, they want to talk to you, certain things that you cannot do that you must absolutely avoid. Otherwise, you would automatically accept a union for that particular location. Even if you have 3 or 4 or 5, or in my case, I was working in a bank and we have, well, when I was there, we had about 67 different branches. And then we went across state lines and all that, and we went to hundreds of branches. But if someone came in one of the other banks in the state, they had 3 branches. They didn't go to the main office. They went to one of the satellite branches and went through a procedure. And the person there, relatively new because a relatively new office had opened, didn't have any training about what unionization is. And one of the things that they did was to interchange the information with that particular person talking to them. And their last act was to take something from them that they were holding out. And that was the point where they actually accept the union for their organization, even though the person didn't have a clue by doing that it would happen. So that's part of what you kind of need to know, not that you're going to ever use it. I was in banking since 1965. I never actually had to use it, but we had to know about it to make sure it didn't happen in the branches. And especially being a regional manager and having up to 23 branches at one time and 146 employees to keep happy, you don't want to make some mistakes and do something that's going to cost your organization a lot of problems. So we'll start with the beginning. The first thing that happens is when someone's going to come in, they're going to be getting in to be hired. And because in New Jersey we have the at-will ability, a person can go and just apply for a job and that works out fine. Anybody can go in and ask for about the job, fill out an application. But they also, if they're going to be hired, they also have to present you with documentation that they're a resident of either your state or United States. They have to have a driver's license or a visa to work, or they have to have and fill out an I-9 form. When I was doing my stuff, we didn't start with back in 1965, we didn't have an I-9 form. But over the years, they became required, especially after 9/11. So when you hire that person after you've gone through, they've given you their documentation, you can verify it. A couple of things happened. In our particular case, we would do a background check and fingerprint check on individuals. Some of the people that came in for jobs were different, shall we say. They came in and they said their name was Josephine. And they turn around and they fill out all the application, their address, they looked like a Josephine. And when they came back with their fingerprints, and they came back and said, these fingerprints belong to Michael so-and-so. That was an issue because they didn't put down the correct information about their original name. That was something that popped up and said, okay, you falsified your application. We can no longer keep you, even though you've been here a week. We have to terminate you because of false information on your application. So you run into some crazy situations just with that group of documentation, filling out your application, how it's filled out, and the information that they give you. Once you actually get past that point and the person's going to be able to stay with you, the day that they start their job starts their probationary period, if you're allowed to have one. In New Jersey, we can have a probationary period. Customary for here is 90 days. I've heard of some places that are 120. Some places talk about being the 6 months time frame as probationary, but you have to check your individual state laws to find out about what time period is the maximum for probationary employees. The next thing that I would talk about is the wonderful things that HR has to do to us, and every employee complains about it. You hire them at X dollars a week or X dollars a month or whatever your pay scale and pay plan is, and all of a sudden they get your first paycheck and their first complaint is, well, why is it's missing so much money? They don't realize that there is taxes. There's whatever it's federal or state, it might be local taxes. If you happen to be in a resort town, I'm not sure if some of them don't actually charge extra taxes. If you live in one state and you work in another state, you also have taxes between both of those states. So a lot of things start deducting from their paycheck. I can remember when my grandson graduated high school and got his first job, he said, why is everybody ripping me off? They're not ripping you off. Welcome to the world of being an adult. You got a job. You now have to pay your way the rest of your life. So it's kind of interesting that people don't kind of know that they have that obligation once they start working a job.
Mel, if I could just chime in for a second there, I think too, I've seen this where if you're hiring people from overseas or people that have immigrated to the country, there's a steeper learning curve about those kind of things. A former job that I had, they hired someone from England, and that employee ended up not working out actually. And one of the things that she got really bent out of shape about was, "You're withholding my salary from me." Well, it was withholdings for income tax purposes, you know. So she just didn't understand the system.
Sure, and that's one of the things that we have to kind of educate them, especially if they're the younger people just getting out of high school. And unfortunately, even some of the college kids don't kind of understand those kind of things as well. But it's kind of part of the world that we're going to live in from now until God knows whenever. And I read something back, something from Hillsdale College, I think it's in Indiana, but they turned around and were doing a whole article about these tariffs and the taxes and things. And I didn't realize that when we first became a country, we didn't have an income tax. It didn't come in until around the 1850s that we actually started having an income tax to have to pay for what we're doing. And so we lived for quite a few years without one. And that was the tariffs that we were charging everybody else to pay the taxes, so we didn't have to pay it. So that's kind of interesting that things change over time, and they went through all the successions of that, but that's another story. Okay, the other thing that people like to know about, they want to know what day they're going to get paid, but they also want to know how much money are we taking out of, and is there an accounting? When I first started working in my bank, they used to hand us an envelope, and the envelope would have our pay in it, and it would have on the envelope your starting pay, and they'd write all the little things and hand it to you in an envelope and say, here's your 2 weeks pay. Now we do it with the computer, but we're still giving that cumulative number. When we started back in 1965, well, I did. I don't know if the rest of you might, but that was when I started with the banking. And that accumulation number wasn't on the envelope. So you didn't really kind of know how much you made until they sent you your 1099 or your pay stub at the end of the year, your W-2. So that's when you figured out how much money did I make and how much money did they take. That was the first inkling that you got the fiscal numbers for it. Okay. So the other thing that you have with employees is you have some employees who are just hired to do general work in specific positions. You have other people who have a contract that covers all the things that they're supposed to do and what you're supposed to do for them. So you have to make sure you understand all the terms of the contracts. Being in banking, every time we dealt with the customers, we had to have a contract. We had to say, this is what we're going to do. This is what you can do. And we had to understand that. As a regional manager of those many branches, sometimes we would get employees and they would say, well, I told the person everything they needed to know. I said, well, what do you tell them? Show me what you did. I gave them the contract. I said, this is for you and your wife. I told them to sign here and gave them the keys for the safe deposit box. Where did that cover the contract? So you kind of need to know what's in their contracts and how they're going to be paid. Some of the contract employees like that, or some supervisors, actually are in unionization. Those people are actually, some of them, not part of the union, but they still have things that from the union contract that covers them, like the ERISA plan for whether they're going to retire and how much goes into that, all kinds of other things. But so some employees have to follow because there's 50 hours or whatever number of hours they work for the week, puts them into a supervisory type position. So a lot of things change how you have to deal with different individuals and what documents you have to work with for those individuals. Okay. I'm assuming, I don't know that all you guys are going to get pensions from your individual foundations, or you're just working off of what you save and you put in your own 401k money or something like that. But those are kind of things that you need to know how that's going to work, whether the company is going to add to it or they're not going to add to it, and see where the money is going to go in the future. When you have a company that has those kind of things, especially if you're going to go into it like a 401k or some of those types of defined benefit programs that they have, you end up with how do I want to say this? You end up with those kind of plans. You have to know the percentage that's going up, but there's an eligibility period where you could be putting money in for maybe the first 5 years, but during those first 5 years, you accumulate 20% of the money that you put in that they put in actually could come to you. You have to make it past that first 5 years or 3 years, whatever in that plan, in order to take all of the money. That's something people don't always understand as well. So we need to go over that kind of stuff. If there's going to be medical or any insurance or vacation time, all that, even stuff to be eligible for bonuses at certain times. When I first started my job in my last job, which I was in 33 years, I went in on Monday. I got hired that Monday after the interview. And the following Monday, anybody that was hired by that Friday went into a special 401k plan, which I was only there 4 days, but I was grandfathered because I was there the day or the week before they started it. So I didn't have to go through that process because I was already an employee when it was implemented. Other people had to wait and go through the 2, 3, or 4 or 5 year period in order to qualify for the money. Vacation time and sick time, those become kind of questionable things, especially with younger people and certain ethnic groups. We have a group of people in our organization that actually decide that they're going to take their vacation time and then they're going to go on a trip overseas somewhere. And it's almost automatic that the second day that they're supposed to be in that foreign country, you get the note, oh, my grandmother is sick. I have to stay here an extra week and turn around and take care of her. So I'm going to have to take family leave or another vacation week for 5 more days. Well, you only get 2, so you're going to have to work something else out. And that becomes an issue. So you kind of have to have a policy of how you're going to handle those kind of things. And sick time, we in the iBank that I work with in Philadelphia, it just became an issue all of a sudden in the last 7 to 9 months, where a particular individual kind of takes off the wrong day every time it's supposed to be their time to do some of the job. They automatically just can't happen to show up. We have to take the day off. No notice, no sickness the day before, nothing like that. And it becomes chronic and constant. And sometimes it goes into like 2 weeks. All of a sudden, we're going to be gone. They not normally didn't ask for a doctor's note or a reference of any kind from the doctor saying that the person is sick. When I worked in the bank, if you were going to be out whatever time period, if you were gone more than 3 days, we're looking for a doctor's note that will allow you to come back to work and telling us that you can do your full job. If you have to have restrictions on your job, in my case at the bank, they would not allow you to come back if there was restrictions. Either you come back and do your full job, or you had to stay out and go on to the short-term unemployment. I forget what they call it, disability insurance. So we'd have to turn them in for disability insurance and have them paid for whatever time they're out. So you have to know what those rules are in your group, and people have to know that that's going to be something that's happening. The 2 gals that we had that are HR people in the iBank, when we talked about the other issue about the person getting sick, they come up with some ideas. And the first question was, well, do you get a doctor's note and that says that they're out for this particular reason in the first place? And the answer said, no, we don't have that. So now we're implementing a doctor's note required if you're going to be out for more than a certain number of days. They haven't finalized all that yet, so I can't tell you what the number is. But it's something that would then force them to have a doctor's note to come back into work, so we would be able to kind of cut down the abuse that they're giving us. And unfortunately, I guess you call them Gen Z. I've lost track way back. We didn't have all the gens. They were just older or younger, and that's when you're hitting almost 80. That's what happens. But anyway, that's an interesting thing because this particular person abusing the system happens to be in that lower group of the Gen Z as far as age is concerned. So not so much the attitude that they're going to come and do the work, whatever it is, and get there no matter what the storm is or whatever else. They're just, well, I don't have to show up today. Somebody else will do it if I don't show up. So it doesn't matter. So you have to work with that and have policies in place that are going to talk about that. Okay. We talked about those kind of guys. The next thing on my group actually is about the union. There's a process that goes back from quite a number of years with unions and being able to unionize, and it was something way back in the Depression time and before with child labor that started getting unions involved and having people being paid proper wages and that kind of thing. But what people don't know is that when there's going to be a union attempt, it's usually because you have a disgruntled employee for one reason or another. If you have more than 2 employees, and they start talking back and forth about, well, they're treating me this way, they're doing that, whatever number of employees you have becomes infectious. People can, I'm going to say, manipulate other employees to say, yeah, I want to do this. I'm going to go with you and I'll back you. And you have a bigger growing problem. The union will turn around and then meet with the individuals tell them what to go in and do, then tell them what to ask for, and a whole bunch, a host of other things that doesn't have anything to do except alerts the company that you're going to turn around and possibly have a union rep show up. As soon as you hear about it or you know about it, you need to make sure that the people who are in charge of your individual area, they turn around and know that when the rep comes in, that they can talk to the rep, they can listen to him, but they shouldn't really exchange a lot of information. It should be more like, my name is Joe, I'm from the IBEW, and I want to talk to you about your employees here. They're very disgruntled. They want to start a union, blah, blah, blah. And he's going to go on and just kind of drive you crazy to the point you just say, let me just take whatever he's got and get him out the door. Well, the problem with that is there's going to have cards that are saying we as individuals, and it could be 2, 3, 5, or 25 or 100 cards. And he's going to go and hand you those cards. Don't take them. Don't touch them. Don't look at them. Just let him do whatever he's going to do with it. Eventually, he or she is going to put it down on your desk. When that person is still on your property, do not touch those cards until after they are off your property and out of sight. So they can't see you picking up the cards and saying these people want to start a union. And because the acceptance of those cards and from that person, it's like being served the legal document, and it says automatically that gesture actually makes the creation of your acceptance for the company. So it's very, very important that who's ever running your shop or your supervisors that you can trust know that this is something that's going to happen or could happen, so that they make sure that they do not touch those cards at all. That's really, really the biggest point that I want to make about unionization. Okay. As I said, unionization usually comes up because people are disgruntled, and somebody said the work to your wage. Well, that's telling you that there's an issue, and that person, and I think it was you, Beth, that said that. You kind of want to be very careful, because if they're doing that and then they decide, if you say you try and discipline them and say or at least have a conversation interview to mitigate the situation and find out why they're not willing to do this or whatever, then you have to go back and think about, they're disgruntled. How do I make them less disgruntled? Do I have to bring in more people to do the job, or whatever you have to do? But somebody who's HR, and if you're not HR savvy, and I'm not 100% HR savvy, so that's I've been out 17 years already from the job. But you want to make sure that you contact somebody like an ADP company does your payroll, maybe. If you have multiple employees, they have a personnel section or HR section that can advise you about things you can do. But you kind of want to sit down with the people, find out what their comments are, not necessarily as a discipline action, because you don't want to discipline them. If you discipline them at the time that they're talking about what they're disgruntled about, the one thing that's going to happen is it's going to make them more angry at you and want to unionize sooner than not. So you need to have a conversation with somebody in HR higher up level than I can possibly get to, and explain to you, how can you diffuse the situation? What are your options legally, so you do all the right things and don't create a bigger situation for yourself? 99% of the time, if you sit down and explain to them why they're required to do this, that they were hired to do this kind of thing, without any discipline action or deducting pay or saying you have to take 2 days leave of absence or something else, or whatever punishment people come up with. It's not always about punishment, but trying to find the reason for the problem and then seeing how we can mitigate it within the context of our particular organization. When you have employees that you're going to be dealing with, if you have the same people I just mentioned, ADP, and there's more other companies. ADP is like one of the big national ones that I know of. You can find out from them salaries that are being paid for the similar jobs They can give you a list of those kind of things, and then you can find out from people in the same position in your area that you might know locally. You might be able to get that from the Chamber of Commerce, or you might just make phone calls and ask somebody, say, I'm working for so-and-so, and I'm trying to work out the competitive salaries for my employees. What kind of salary do you pay for this particular spot? What kind do you do for that particular spot? And so you have a comparison for national and then for local, and see where your individual salary comes, and maybe you have to make an adjustment in order to get people. And that's something that, it's individual to every group because you all make money in a different way, and we all know that dollars are really hard to come by in the first place. So that's a big key. But when you have disgruntled people and they're saying it's not my job, well, if you have a policy manual and your policy manual says that you need to have these skills and be able to be competent to do these things, and maybe even in a certain time frame, then you show that person these are the things that are part of your job. This is your job description. These are the things you have to do in order to do that. We base our salary increases based on your performance of what you do here. If you're not completing the entire job, then you're not going to get 100% of what we might normally give you as a salary increase. Might be something that you would want to talk to the ADP guy or somebody else and ask him, can you get away with that? When I started in 65, yeah, we could get away with it. Today, everybody's a lot more liberal, so you might not want to just jump on that bandwagon and say, okay, you're going to get docked so much money on your salary increase. You're only going to get maybe a 3 that says you're mediocre rather than a 4 or a 5 on your individual report. And that's the second part of it is when you're doing or talking to your individuals and you have this policy manual, it's also going to tell them when their reviews for their performance is going to take place. You want to get that in there, make sure that they understand that this is going to be when we decide how well you've worked for us. It also is going to be the deciding factor of if you're getting all 3s, but you're yelling you want the next 2 levels up job, why you're not going to get it. Now, when you're doing your reviews, the important thing is the employee, after you've done the review with them and you're finished, you both should be signing the bottom part of the form saying this discussion took place. These are the things that we had issues with. These are the things that maybe they actually improved. So you're saying, and with one person you improved, you did these things, blah, blah, blah. You're moving towards that next step. Don't guarantee them the next step right away. Make sure it's going to be available before you can ever offer it to somebody. So you want to make sure you talk about that they're getting through the different steps that they need to get to maybe acquire that next position, but make it all about them. The handbook. Okay.
Mel, could I ask something? I
Sure.
can't remember. Do you have anything coming up specifically about fundraising professionals and hiring practices? Was that specifically addressed in your outline?
No.
One thing that I would just like to add, because it relates directly to what you were just saying, I think the other thing we have to be really, really careful of, especially if you are coming into this work from outside the nonprofit sector, if you're coming into this work from a corporate background, if your fundraising staff or if you are hiring a fundraising position, particularly if they are members of AFP, Association of Fundraising Professionals, or if they have the CFRE designation, they are ethically required by their membership in that association to not have their compensation tied to a percentage of funds raised. In other words, we can't hire fundraisers on like a commission-based quid pro quo formula. So that's something, you can certainly have agreed upon metrics for measuring fundraising effectiveness where, a fundraising staff can get a bonus if they maintain X percent donor retention, if they raise X number of total dollars for the year, but nothing in that performance-based incentive for fundraisers can be directly tied to a percentage of that fundraiser's salary. So in other words, no commission-based incentives for fundraising staff.
That's good. I didn't know that part of it. Okay. Okay, let's see. The handbook, all right. In some places, and I know if some of you are working with the eyes and that sort of thing, there's different certifications that everybody has to have as the CBET and all that kind of stuff that they use for who can do specific jobs within the organization. With us being an eye bank, everyone just about in the organization has one of those certifications or maybe several of those certifications. And it's as you get them, you can earn more money and you get special jobs. You get it become more technical and specialized. Those people who can do that and have the ability to be able to do, say, stripping the cornea out as opposed to just collecting the eye and bringing it back to the eye bank or something like that, would then be able to be eligible for higher income based on their performance. So you need to know what certifications people would need to move from one step to the next step to the next step, and make sure that gets into your manual as well. Okay. One of the things that we found that we were having issues with some of our employees because they were of childbearing age, and we had probably 60 or so, maybe 65% of our workers happened to be females. Those that were in the childbearing age were saying, like, it's getting hard for us to do some things because of having to work with the childcare. I can't tell you how many employees I had that went out on maternity leave at the bank. I see them on Friday afternoon before they're coming back. I just happened to be in the branch that they were coming back to and doing my review there. And they turned around and said, yeah, we're definitely coming back on Monday. We can't wait to get back to the job. Until 7:30 in the morning on Monday, you get the phone call. No, I'm going to have to stay out on family leave. I can't come back because I can't afford to turn around and have the child care and pay for the child care. So I got to do this or that. So the iBank decided that what we would do is we made a package just for people who were going to be in that childbearing age so that they could have everybody bring their child to the same location and we would offset part of the cost for that. So it kept us with 5 employees who were going to have to leave because of childcare issues, able to stay with us. So it's a benefit that rather than lose good technicians or good people, whatever position that they had, to stay with us and had the childcare maybe about 4 blocks away from where we actually have the location of our operation. So it worked out great. And because we had put more than 4 people into their program, they turned around and gave us a percentage discount as well as a group rate rather than just everybody pays this higher rate. So this one of those little things you have to do, but you have to think about how you're going to pay for that. We had that discussion during the time of the COVID and inflation was going so high. We actually packaged up for our employees at the iBank. We gave them all a stipend for offsetting their individual cost of living that was going so high, so that when that was an issue they were starting to complain about, we said, well, we can afford to do this, so let's do this so we keep these people happy. We don't have to lose our best people cutting eyes or whatever, recovering eyes, whatever it was down the line. So you have to start to get out of the box that you used to have and say, this makes sense. Then when we got to the point where COVID was done after the 4 years, our executive director, our CEO said to the board, I'd like to do this if I can. And because we were carrying it for several years with the cost of living adjustments, that was part of like their salary. They really got used to having that extra money. We actually just gave it to them and said, you're going to keep that. We're not going to take it back. We're not going to reduce it. Your salary will stay at what it is as of this paycheck with the COLA in it. And we did that. So everybody was very, very happy that they got that. And when it came time for their Christmas bonus, they got the same Christmas bonuses that they would have normally gotten anyway. So everybody was really ecstatic with us, like, what great employers you people are. So we did get Employer of the Year from Philadelphia for great places to work for 2024. So that was kind of cute. Let's see. A lot of the issues, like the one I just mentioned, are things that people could get excited about. And the child care is one of them. The leave of absence policy is another. Um, there's some considerations for sponsorship for college degrees or reimbursement for programs and things like that, that people like to have that. I can tell you that my daughter worked for a nonprofit, actual nonprofit. She worked for the Foundation for Ocean County College. And because she was doing the fundraising and the development part for the foundation, not for the college, she actually was able to go and get her regular bachelor's degree. She got an associate, then the bachelor's, and then she finally just finished up her master's last December. And she didn't pay a dime for it. They actually paid for all of that through her job work. So if you can do that, something that sometimes helps people who want to stay, and then they stay with you. Hopefully they stay with you. When we had the program at the bank, anybody who got the program and was able to get through and get their degree, they had to stay with us for at least 3 years or pay back the money. So it kind of forced them to stay with the organization. They just didn't get a free ride. The college is a lot more liberal than a bank. They don't have investors that are looking for a return on their investment. So it's different. But those are kind of things that you need to look at to have in your manual, but make sure your manual is written so that everybody gets a copy of it. Daniel, there's about well, there's 10 pages altogether the way I have it. But if we could, I can send this to you with a smaller print. Some of the stuff, especially about the unionization and things like that, they might want to have, and we can just send it out to everybody who here or who would miss the call.
Thank you. That would be great. Yeah, on the unionization stuff, I was taking close notes on on some of those items. Thank you for sharing those.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do it, to make sure in case something happened, a car accident last night or something, somebody else had the program could follow through. Let's see. Okay, we'll get that. Yeah.
You were talking about education. As far as I know, it's still a law that still is enacted by the national government. If a person works with a nonprofit for 10 years, they'll be paying on their college education, but at that 10-year period, their education can cost, the rest of them can be written off.
Okay, I remember that.
Yeah, which is a great benefit. We're trying to use that as an way that hopefully we can recruit optometrists to work with us.
That's true. That's true.
That's a really great point. And that's something that our state nonprofit association has really been talking up a lot more for all nonprofits in our area. They've had some orientation and some educational programs on how people can qualify for it and walking them through that process. So that is something, an arrow we can keep in our quiver for the nonprofit world.
Okay, just quickly, there's so what do you want? Okay. The idea of, we talked about earlier, and I said something about disciplinary action and that kind of thing. I was part of a group, being the regional manager. You get involved in a lot of crazy stuff. But I had a branch who had a problem with an employee who we inherited through a merger, kept her on for the couple of years after the merger. She got pregnant, but which was not a problem for us. She could do her job, that would be fine, except she wasn't doing her job, and we had to make sure that we had to document that. So we wrote up a form. We used it. We had a 3-part form, and we would have to have somebody, the supervisor, a witness, and the employees sit down and have a discussion about their job performance. My managers always used to say to me, I really hate when I have to fire somebody. And I said, that's a really good thing, because the day that you enjoy firing somebody is, I hope, going to be your last day working with me, because I would rather fire you than that employee if you're enjoying firing people. Your job should be to educate them, let them know what they have to fix, give them time to fix it, move on to the next step, If they don't fix it, you have to have a documented group of discussions. And in our particular organization at the bank, they required that we had to have 3 negative write-ups before we would be able to terminate the person for not performing their job correctly. So we ended up, this person kept making mistakes. One time let the wrong person into somebody else's safe deposit box. Said that's a big no-no. That could be like a $10 million lawsuit. And the bank said, no, we're not putting up with that anymore. Sorry, she's pregnant, but job performance says she's not doing the job and she's costing us a big liability. So we terminated this woman. She went to the state labor organization in Trenton and complained to them that we fired her because she's pregnant. Well, they sent down investigators. They looked at all of our paperwork. They followed through. We had to show them the manual and what the procedures were for her to follow. And so there was 5 of us all together from the bank who had to talk to this investigator, explained what the job was, explained what she wasn't doing, and turned around. And that was all we could do, is say, this is why we did what we did. So they turned around and they then talked to the young lady, and she turned around and said that we fired her because she's pregnant. And the investigator said, I just talked to 5 people and they told me how to do your job. So tell me how you do your job. She did. The investigator said, you got one thing right. You got 9 things wrong. You're not doing your job. You don't know what your job is. I'm going to find for the bank, you're not getting anything extra from them. You're not getting, and your disability is going to be, or your unemployment is going to be delayed for a month, because that's the normal thing if we have any problems with the investigation. So if you have the paperwork, you can show that you tried to do and rehabilitate the person and get them to do the job correctly, then you will turn around and win those kind of cases. So if you have that disgruntled employee and they decide to do something with the state, then the labor people, then you have documentation. If you don't have documentation that you sat down and had a witness and this transaction or this interview or whatever you want to call it took place, you can say all you want that, oh, we had it, we had it, we had it. Well, if you don't have the proof you had it, you don't got it. And we made sure that there was the 3 copies. So the employee being spoken to, and the manager of that particular person and the HR department all got a copy. Everybody had to sign a copy. Now, what happens when you get that person who says, I'm not signing it. I'm just not going to sign this. Fine, don't sign it. Don't argue. You just have you and the witness write on the form, this was discussed on this day. We signed it. This person refused to sign the document at the end of or conclusion of our discussion. And the state's going to say, okay, because you had a witness corroborating what you were doing, so you don't have an issue that it was just he said, she said. Very small little things, but can save you some great headaches. Talked about the inflation adjustments and stuff.
Mel, do you have any samples? One of the things I ran into on day one of stepping into the CEO role here was an underperforming employee, and it had been a long-standing cultural issue, and it was highly entrenched. And following our procedures, I had to do a performance evaluation that found this individual was performing unsatisfactorily. But then I had to develop a performance improvement plan to say, here's how you're currently performing, here's what's expected in order for you to come off of what was in essence, probation. I had to kind of lean on some other folks here in the industry and kind of build that from scratch. Do you have any templates for those like performance improvement plans that could potentially be shared around just so others, if they, hopefully they don't, but if they find themselves in that situation, at least have a guide to go on for something like that?
I wish I had taken some when I actually left the job 17 years ago. And I said the other day, I'm going to have to go and see if they still use it. But the organization that has been merged since, and they do everything out of Buffalo, New York. So people like, no, we can't give you anything because that's just for the bank use and we're not going to give it to you. And everybody that I used to know who had access to it, they've all either left at the merger time or left because they hit retirement after the merger time. So I don't have the access to get that. I can tell you that at one point in my life, I was going to a doctor for Lyme disease treatments up in Neptune, New Jersey. And the guy was, the doctor was just a fantastic brain about Lyme disease. He knew everything about it. And so he talked about some issues. So he would tell me to come in the office, come up. Normal times to get there was 8 o'clock. He told me, I want you to come in like 7:15 to 7:30. If you can, knock on the back door and I'll let you in. Well, I knock on the back door. He lets me in. We don't talk about me. He's talking about his employees. How do I do this and how do I do that? And I got this issue with this one, and she's been here for 15 years and blah, 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 blah. So I gave him the forms that because I had access to them at that point, and he used the forms. He ended up with the labor people coming back and challenging him. They all said, "You've got everything covered. You documented everything. It's all signed, sealed, and delivered. We find for you. We're not going to have it. She's not going to have a case." So the procedure does work. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many different times with people over the 33 years with that particular bank. And I also saw the same procedures prior to that one because I started in 65 in banking. So it's something that you need to protect yourself and your organization. And that's part of your job as being the CEOs or the executive directors of the organization to make sure nobody can back and challenge you and make you have to pay a very large lawsuit or whatever has transpired between you. I will try again and see if I can get something from a different organization bank. I know one of the managers, I've known her for 20 plus years here. So I'll see if they have something that they use, or I'll just pick her brain and see, she'll get something from somebody in HR from me, I'm sure. And I'll share that with everybody. Well, I'll share it with Daniel and he can get it to all of you. But I don't have all your emails addresses. Maybe
Daniel,
yeah.
Daniel, and Mel. So Daniel, I had to do the same thing. I can send you, I'm sure I can find it because I keep my records pretty much, but it basically, I think the issue here is just that you've communicated this, and all I put was this is what you're doing, and then I put below it, this is what I expect. This is what your job expectancy is. And then, yes, I've had where they won't sign it. I get it. Even that handing over, as Mel said before, with the union, it's also good information if you're handing over termination papers and they don't want to sign it. If the minute they touch that, they've accepted it, they've received it. Having a witness on my third interview, because we do the same thing, but on my third interview, I actually record it. And I tell them that I'm recording, and I keep that recording because of them going to come back, because they're going to. They're going to change what they said. So I think it's just keep it. I'm sure everybody here does that, right? I'm pretty sure we all know how to terminate somebody, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
Well, and like the situation that I mentioned, after the initial shock, and it was genuine shock, that tells you how ingrained the cultural situation was, of the disparity between this individual's performance and their job expectations were. Initially, he said, "Okay, great, we'll do the performance improvement plan," built it all out, designed it, pieced it together, and then he resigned voluntarily about a week or so, less than a week later. So fixed itself. So.
Part of that's because you saw what was expected and knew you were serious about him having to perform at that level.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time here and everybody's busy. So as I'm looking at this, we've got about 7 more minutes. Is that correct, Daniel
Yeah.
and Mel?
Yes. Yeah.
Mel,
The
do you
program
have
is
any key points you really want to knock home before we ask you some questions?
I'd rather you just ask me the questions because I really didn't have anything that I could handle on the TikTok thing about work to your wage other than what I already said. And I didn't have the thing that Daniel was looking for. I'll get that. The rest of it would take another 30 minutes to finish the individual lines that are on the 10 pages. So
Well, let me ask a question to
and
everybody. Are you guys all at will state? Do you guys all have at will? So we don't have union issues, right? Okay, so Mel, thank you for that information. We don't have those issues, but we now know if somebody walks in, we just don't touch nothing.
Well, that's
You
the
know?
biggest thing.
Yeah.
That's the
I
biggest thing.
think my situation may be different than the rest of yours, where I know Lindy has a big building and she's got their office. It's very easy to find her. Me, we're on a medical campus. You can't get into my office without a badge, right? So they can't find us, type of thing. So we're okay there. So at will, as I'm understanding, you can terminate somebody for any reason. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But
I
especially in the probationary period, as mentioned earlier, anytime in that first 90 days, you don't need a reason to actually fire somebody. You could, they could come in with, you didn't wear their tie 2 days in a row, and they were supposed to wear a tie on the job, and you could fire them, which is a silly reason to do it, but it could be that crazy. Yep.
Well, and that's what I figured. And that's why we have a 90-day probation. I'm like, I don't even know why we have a 90-day probation. We're at will. If you don't do your job, I'm gonna have to get rid of you. You know, but if they're doing their job, I have no reason not to get, to keep not to keep them. So I think that's what we're looking for is good employees. You find one that's not working, you're gonna have to get rid of them. My next thing is I just want to touch base with everybody. Do y'all use PTO or vacation sick time? What do y'all do?
So we've got a couple of buckets. We've got three main buckets at LVS. Well, actually four. So we've got paid holidays, where as long as you are a full-time employee, the office closes and you're paid for those days. There's 10 of those during the year. Employees, again, full-time employees, have paid time off, and that's for their vacation. They can use that anytime they want. It is on an accrual basis, but we also have sick leave that is separate from that PTO. And they can also use that sick leave for mental health days as long as they disclose that that's what it's for. But again, that's a set amount of sick leave that's on an accrual basis. And then we also have a bereavement policy that's again separate from PTO and separate from sick leave, where if an immediate family member dies, you've got a 5-day bereavement policy that will cover you without tapping into those other PTO or sick leave
So
days.
yours is all basically separated because you're just saying PTO as vacation.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have the PTO that's combined? Because PTO means sick time, grievance, all of that is combined into one. And it's just called
That would,
PTO.
yeah, that
That's
would be us.
Anybody, I'm sorry?
That's actually what we're moving in the iBank to, everything being lumped into the PTO to get rid of that sick time thing and the habitual
And that's what I'm
time off.
asking. How, so you're moving to that. We did that as well. And it's a big challenge because there's that challenge between, well, we've got, let's just say hypothetically, a week of vacation and a week of sick time. Well, now when it's PTO, it's 2 weeks period, no matter what. And they don't have to prove, they don't have to bring us a doctor's certificate or anything. So basically, I just gave them an extra week of vacation time, right? So that's why I'm asking you guys as a group, do y'all use PTO? Do y'all have it separated like Daniel?
We use PTO. We also have bereavement leave is separate. And of course, our holidays are separate too.
Yeah, and I can see the bereavement separate and also maternity separate, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you. Thank you.
We're actually exploring moving to an unlimited PTO policy to just get rid of that requirement altogether, with some stipulations, with some parameters. Obviously, it would be for full-time employees that had been with the organization for a set amount of time. But we're finding that that flexibility is increasingly important for our employees. And I'll be honest, the starting, what our employee policy manual says as our starting PTO time, I have not used that for any of the hires that I've made since I've been at LVS, because in order to get those hires, we've had to stretch that PTO policy out as part of that package and part of that negotiation. So the
So
current
what do you mean
policy
by
was
unlimited? Does that mean that I can come to work for you and take vacation for 365 days?
Technically, on paper, yes, but
Oh, really?
it also means that you're evaluated annually on how well you performed and how well you got your objectives met. We're trying to shift to more of an outcome focused employment perspective, so that hey, we expect this employee to accomplish these things. If you can do that while visiting your aunt in Virginia, go for it by all means. I don't care. Makes no difference to us.
So you guys don't, so you don't care if they take 2 weeks off in a row or 3 weeks off in a row? You don't have any time limits? Does anybody have any time limits, like you can only use 1 week of vacation at a time?
We don't have any limits even in our current policy. Somebody could take their whole year's worth of allotted PTO currently and use it all at one time, technically.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have that time limit either. We have 17 days for new employees that they get for PTO, sick leave, that whole combination thing.
Cool.
Yeah, officially, we
Well,
don't
Mel, and
have,
I also, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ron.
officially, we do not have a limit, but in our policy manual, it specifically states that all time off has to be approved before they can take it.
Yeah.
So as such, if someone says I'm going to take 2 weeks off in the middle of like camp right now, if my camp registrar came to me and said I'm going to take 2 weeks off, it's like, no.
We
What
actually,
You're
days
not.
can you take? I'm going to get you a day here and a day there, because until camp is up and running, there's things you have to do.
so
Now,
you don't have rollover. If you have unlimited, it doesn't matter. You're not worried about rollover time.
yeah, and
Yeah.
see, in the state of Illinois, we now have to allow 10 days of rollover. That's a
Yeah.
state law.
We just put that in. We actually have, you've so many years, you've been 1 week, so many years, 2 weeks, and we calculate it per pay period. So it's like 1.4 hours per pay period or 3.8 hours per pay period type of thing. And it accumulates as the year goes on. And we just went to a 1 week rollover so that in case somebody wants to take off in January, they can, because that's where our problem was coming in. So, and Mel, thank you for all that information. The other part that you said, which was really good, is I know some people say you won't get paid for a holiday, because we actually have 15 holiday days, right? But because we get off from Christmas Eve to New Year's, to the day after New Year's, because we're on LSU's campus and the campus is closed down.
Close.
Right.
So we let everybody off for those extra days, those extra 8 days or whatever it is. But the part of you have to come to work the day before, you can't take off that extra day. I know that some people do that. And I believe it's all what Daniel's saying is you've got to work with your employees nowadays. You get a good one, you work with them. You get one that's taking advantage of you, you got to start writing them up. You got to find the fix. So I know we're past our 12:30. Anybody have any other questions? Because I got one more question to all y'all that you don't have to answer. But before we close today.
I was just going to add on that I think all this conversation for me and how it pertains in our organization and probably some of you, flexibility is important, but with fairness. And so I'll give one example of how that's played out for our organization, because our people have been, the other two employees, one's almost 18 years and one's been there almost 14 years. And so I'm the newbie at 6 years. But post-COVID, one of my employees was interested in moving closer to her home, which was about 3 hours away from our main office. And I didn't want to lose her as an employee. And so I think COVID opened our eyes in some ways to the ability for flexible work location. So I actually implemented a remote work policy to allow her to have specific parameters to be able to work from her family farm in Morgantown, Kentucky, instead of Louisville, Kentucky, but with very specific criteria. We meet 6 months to continue to assess if it's still mutually agreeable and working well. These are the days where I know I'll need you to report to the office in Louisville or certain locations. These are the parameters, how mileage reimbursements will work, all of that. And so to me, I think flexibility, but also fairness in that regard, but also, for example, Juneteenth is a holiday that our organization observes because it follows the university calendar that we follow. I may not want to take next Thursday off or whenever the 19th, but flexibility, and this is true for our employees too. maybe I want to take the 20th off instead because it's a Friday. So again, kind of with approval, but understanding that, kind of that flexibility on things. We have trustee meetings on Saturday. So I always give a flex day to our employees. You're giving up a Saturday, which you may not be working the full 8 hours, but that's a big sacrifice, right? For everybody, whether you have kids or you're married or not. And so I think little pieces like that to me mean a lot to the employees and our team. And so hearing, what people want and being flexible and fair, I think is really important because the cost to retain employees, my background's in, I sold payroll and HR software. So you talk ADP, I worked for Paycor. The studies that they did were significant on the cost to retain versus to recruit and get someone trained and up to speed to perform at that level. It was up to 3 times an annual salary of an employee when you lose one, right? So, I mean, the cost to continue to invest in their happiness and have them know. I've got employees right now whose nephew has been diagnosed with brain cancer, stage 4. It's not curable, right? So yesterday she said, I need to leave our team meeting early to go to an appointment with my sister. Absolutely. Am I going to make her fill out a form to take official sick time? No, because it doesn't feel like the right thing. Now, if she's abusing it and 4 months later, not performing to her job, in her review. So I think I just wanted to kind of chime that in. I think a lot of times we have opportunities to be flexible and fair. And those were just kind of some things as they pertain to human resources, but with documentation, because all of a sudden, to Mel's point, you might have someone that comes and they're you gave them an inch and they're taking a mile, right? And so just being careful to protect your organization.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it'll come back and bite you. I've always say don't focus on work, but focus on results.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not how much we work, but it's what you get done.
Quality
I
over
said I had
quantity.
one other question, but I actually got another one. How many employees do each of you guys have, if you don't mind me asking? I know. Okay, Daniel, Beth, I don't want to know. I know you don't have you don't have enough fingers, Beth. How many employees do y'all have?
I have 3
Let's
full-time and 4 1099 contract laborers who are part-time in their
I'm
quantity.
sorry, Lindy, how many was that?
3 full-time W-2 employees and 4 1099 contract employees who have specific contracts that make them part-time if they were W-2 based on the quantity of
Appreciate
hours.
it. Ron, how many do you have?
I have 9.
9. Okay. Lydia.
So all ours are volunteers, so nobody gets paid.
Okay. Are you a paid employee?
No.
Wow. Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Russ, I think you're in the same boat over there, right?
Yeah, we got 2 paid employees for our iBank, but everybody else is volunteers.
Yeah. And then you've got Brenda, that's your kid site. She's paid, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think you got 2 there.
Yeah, her and Bryson.
Yeah. Yeah.
At
Beth, how many you have?
We have 18 right now. We just put into our budget to add 3 more. And then we have 3 contractors.
Yeah, and you got such a big building, you've got a great property there. I've been there, I've been to Lydia's, I've been past Lindy's, but I don't think I've ever really went inside there. So I'd love to see it next time I get a chance to be there. We have 4 or 5 depending. I had at one time one of the employees got to all of them and created this coup. So, like Mel was talking about, it could have turned into a union. But what it ended up to be is I lost every employee. Two of them were terminated and 2 of them left on their own. But they were doing some really bad things because they got this one guy kind of went rogue on us. So I'm going to ask y'all one more question, and you don't have to answer this. What do you think a good salary would be to offer someone to take my job in Louisiana as the executive director of the Louisiana Lions Eye Foundation? Any thoughts?
Do you have any salary benchmarks for your state, Chris, or for your city?
Yeah, but I don't want to tell you what it is yet. I'm just curious. What do you think it would take somebody to leave where they're at and come down to little old New Orleans, Louisiana? Or what do you think a good salary is for an executive director of an eye foundation that has a $500,000 annual budget? How's that?
You're
Okay,
probably not
thanks.
going to like my number, but I would say based on the amount of money that you have in your budget, somewhere between 75,000 and $100,000.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mel.
I was going to
And
land around 75,000 for an executive director role based on those descriptors that you provided, if you want to be competitive. But that's without having some of the industry benchmarks in Louisiana, which might change that a little bit.
We're
I would
one of
think
the
it would be
lowest, we're
higher.
one of the lowest income, if that's what you're asking. Yes.
and truthfully, I would have, you say you got 4 direct reports. I generally put about 20 grand on something like that. So I would have come up with somewhere around 80. So same general benchmark area.
Okay, thank you. I know it's different in different areas. I know Ohio's high, I know Illinois is high. I don't know about New Jersey. I think we're kind of, but I think our income level down here, Mississippi and Louisiana is the lowest income as far as highest poverty rates.
Yep.
Yeah, in the country. So
Just
thank
so you
y'all.
know, the major foundations that not the iBank, but the actual Lions foundations that I'm involved with, nobody gets paid. We're just like Lydia. We're all volunteers.
Yeah. And that's a different concept, but it's doing it differently.
Sure.
Where like with the rest of us, Beth and Ron and all of that, it's a full-time job, man. You just can't get away with it. And
Yeah.
Lydia, for what you're doing, I commend you and Wesley because you guys are doing this you're taking this time out of your life to be here. So thank y'all so much.
Yeah.
I will tell you, Chris, that I was set on the Pilot Dogs board, and when you talk about salaries for that executive director, yeah, here in Ohio, you're talking over 100.
Yeah, that late I met your new executive for what is it? Leader Dog, right?
Well, there's leader dogs and then there's pilot dogs or
Right.
canine companions.
Yeah.
So yeah, pilot dogs is wait, yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And iBanks, let me tell you, those iBanks, they get paid, but they make the money.
Yep.
They make the money. So it warrants them. But the rest of us are living off of donations and Lions money, and that Lions money is hard to get.
It certainly is.
Yep.
Okay, I just thank y'all for that information. I know I got to write this job description, and just based on what I get paid doesn't mean that's what the next person should be being paid. So,
Yep.
thank y'all.
Well,
Just
thank you all
before
for being a part of today's program. Yeah, PID Mel. Yeah.
before we close out, I'd like to talk to you, Chris, and Lindy about New Jersey's or the forum at the end of this. See where we're at.
Okay.
I have 2 o'clock and I haven't eaten lunch, so I'm not going to be available right after this. I apologize. I've been going straight since about 8:30 this morning, so I apologize. I
Okay.
can go back another time, but
Mel, I'm
Okay.
available. I don't know, Daniel, are you available?
I can be available. I've got a 2 o'clock as well, but I can squeeze in some time. So,
Okay.
yeah, we'll stay on after that for that. Thank you all for being a part of today's program. Thank you, PID Mel, for the wonderful human resources insights that you shared with us. We look forward to seeing as many of you as we can at the forum on September the 17th in Atlantic City, and then we'll have our last quarterly meeting of the year on Zoom on December 3rd, 2025 at 12 p.m. Eastern. Please reach out if you have any questions or need anything from us before then. And until then, thank you all for your time and service for Lions Foundations. We look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
thank you all.
Bye, you guys.
Daniel, if you'll just